we will acquaint you with a unique world, a world of fierce warriors and wonderful romantics, a mysterious and legendary world, a world of poets and government officials, a world of great empires and nomadic culture, a world of eternal blue sky, the Turkic world. From you, prudent people will come, scribes and prophets, tsars and khans. Great Tengri. The Great Turkic Khaganate was the first large state which united the people who lived in the vast territory, from Dnieper River in the west to Amur River in the east, and from Yenisei River in the north to the foothills of Tibet in the south. The Great Turkic Khaganate firmly united the nomadic steppe and centers of agricultural oasis civilization, Central Asia towns. Now let's focus on unification process in more detail. So, already in 545, Bumin established diplomatic relations with China. Nevertheless, Turks continued to moultine for Jujuans. But in 546, Bumin defeated and annexed to his Ayman 50,000 tens of Uyghurs who fought against his suzerain, Jujuan Han Anahuan. The success inspired him with hope, and he addressed Jujuan Han Anahuan to permit to marry his daughter, Princess. Offensive response of the latter was a casus belli. In addition, that year Bumin received support from Teleuts, 50,000 horsemen. All of this made it possible to form a professional army. In 551, Bumin marries the Chinese princess. That year was remarkable because Bumin received the title of Khagan, Han, united Turkic peoples in one state, and in 551-555 dealt a crushing blow to Jujuan kingdom. In this way, dependence of Turkics from Jujuans ended. In 553, his son Mugan Khagan, 553-572, ascended the throne. He turned the Turkic Union into Khaganate. Appearance of the Turkic centralized power, which covered the whole Asian steppe, turned out a factor of sadness and great importance to diplomacy for China, Byzantium and Iran.
Таких великих держав того времени, как Китай, Византия и Персия.
Sasanian Iran's eastern policy was flexible and far-sighted. To the capital of the Khaganate came Persian embassy, which established a union, strengthened by marriage of Shah and Istami Khan's daughter. According to Chinese sources, along with 10 powerful leaders of On-Ok 10 Arrows, Istami accompanied his brother Bumin in campaign to Jangaria. After that, when his brother died in the year of his victory, he received the title Yabgu, it can be translated as Vice Emperor, and protected the western lands of the empire on behalf of his nephew, Bumin's son Mugan Khagan, who made Holy Country Otuken his residence on the banks of the Orkhon and Selenga rivers in Upper Mongolia, constituting a huge threat to China.
Who were the Hephthalites? In the 2nd century, Huns migrated to the west. Attila reached Eastern Europe. On the territory of central Kazakhstan, Eoban state was formed. They were white Huns, and on river Surdarya and Amudarya, the Hephthalites lived. They were black Huns.
To fight against the Hephthalites, the Turks needed military forces and time. They didn't want to win quickly, so they sent their embassy to Iran. Why did they choose the Iranians as allies? Because during reign of Pir Shah in Iran, the Iranians lost the battle with the Hephthalites, became their vassals and paid tribute. The Turks knew about it. They offered the Iranians to create an alliance against the Hephthalites. The Iranians agreed. In 562-564, the combined army won the Hephthalites. Turks' territory expanded to the Amudarya and Iran gained its independence, and a part of the Hephthalites' territory, Toharistan, became a part of Iran. To secure a treaty with Iran, Turkic embassy was sent to the Persians. Their way lay through Central Asia, conquered by the Hephthalites at the time. The Hephthalites looted the caravan and killed the ambassadors. Bugan Kagan addressed Hephthalites' king, demanding immediate extradition of killers, but he was rebuffed. War with Hephthalites became inevitable. In 560s, Timihan marched into Central Asia. Decisive battle between combined Persian and Turkic troops against Hephthalites' army took place in 565 in the mountains near Nisef and ended with complete defeat of the latter. The winners divided their land. The Persians came into Bactria. The Turks entered Sogdiana, the country of ancient Iranian civilization, where they laid foundation for future Turkification. Iran finally lost one of its main provinces, and Indo-Europeanism rolled back again. However, Turan arose. Later it would be called Turkestan. So, Central Asia had become an integral part of the Khaganate. Times had changed. The Turks came to the scene of great civilizations. The Khaganate achieved not only political but also economic power. In fact, the Khaganate became a colonial empire, like Rome in the era of Principate, or like England and France in the 18th and 19th centuries. The Khaganate was more extensive and economically stronger than Zhennu state because it took control of the Silk Road, a caravan route through which Chinese silk went to Europe in exchange for European gold. The Turks received silk from Cross China, where two kingdoms, Beizhou and Bei'id, willingly paid for military aid and even for neutrality. Turgut Khan said, "If only the two boys in the south were obedient to us, it would be unnecessary to be afraid of poverty." The two boys, Zhou and Qi. In 6th century, silk was a currency and valued in Byzantium on a par with gold and precious stones. For silk, Byzantium also received allies, even though corrupted, and mercenaries, slaves and any goods. It was ready to buy any amount of silk, but the trade route was through Iran, which lived at the expense of customs duties from caravans, and therefore it was forced to let them pass, at that strictly limiting the passage of caravans, because when receiving excess silk, Byzantium increased its military potential directed against Iran. Soon after 565, Istemiz sent to Sasanian king an embassy consisting of Sogdians headed by a certain Maniach. Then, in 567, he expanded the scope of his relations with Byzantium. The first war between Iran and Turkic Khaganate in 568 was resulted from embassy of Maniach, who was able to persuade Islamic Khagan to change Persian orientation into Byzantine. And an important role was played by the fact of limiting the passage of caravans with silk through Iran.
Тюрки, никогда не создавшие, не занимавшиеся шелководством, они теперь хотели продавать этот шелк в Византию.
The Turks, who had never been engaged in sericulture, wanted to sell this silk in Byzantium. But the way to Byzantium went through Iran. The Sogdians did that. Sogdian merchants Maniach started for Byzantium with trading caravans. On the territory of Iran, Anushirvan, Shah of Iran, stopped them, paid for the goods, and before the merchants' eyes, he burned the silk goods. This meant that Iran was against that the Turks carried through their territory goods for sale to Byzantium. And then yesterday's allies became enemies. Turkic Khagan Isabel sent this Sogdian Maniach to Byzantium as an ambassador. Later, this way was through the present-day Western Kazakhstan. They had several goals. One of the goals was creation of an alliance against Iran, and the other goal was direct delivery of Turkic silk to Byzantium.
И другая цель это была прямая поставка тюркского шелка в Византию.
History is a lesson of the past, instruction of the past to the future. Nursultan Nazarbayev. Islamic Khagan decided to make Iran more compliant by force of arms. His troops crossed the Amu Darya and in Jurjan occupied trading towns belonging to the Persians. But they failed to pass lines of border fortifications erected by the Persians in the 5th century against the Hethalites. And in 569 they came back to Sogdiana, knowing that Byzantium was about to start a war in Mesopotamia and would divert Persian forces. Meanwhile, another part of Islamic Khan's troops entered the territory of the North Caucasus in an effort to lay a new caravan road around the Caspian Sea through the Caucasus. Peace with Iran was signed in 571. In 572, Mughal Khagan died. Ambassadors of all the neighboring states arrived at the funeral. The Byzantine Empire sent a special delegation. The Kurultai assembly, convened after the funeral, was attended by representatives of all Turkic tribes, formed the Great Turkic Khaganate. And Arslan Khan, with the title Tubo Khagan, ascended to the throne. The Turkic Khaganate expanded rapidly, especially in the west. It consisted of new Turkic tribes with their territories. To facilitate management of the Khaganate, it was divided into 8 uluses. Tubo Khagan gave the eastern wing of his ulus to his nephew Shetu, the western wing to his brother, who had a son, Burihan. Meanwhile, Islamic Khan, having finished to organize the state apparatus, started a war against the Avars. The Avars, who fled from Central Asia to the Black Sea region, created a strong Turkic state in a short time. To stand against the Great Turkic Khaganate, the Avars made peace with Byzantine. To stand against the Great Turkic Khaganate, the Avars made peace with Byzantium. The war between the Khaganate and Avar state was long and bloody. Having defeated the Avars, Turks in 576 reached the Bosphorus and came to the borders of the Byzantine Empire. Among Menander's documents, we found Islamic Khan's address to an ambassador of Byzantine Emperor Valentinian. Are you those Romans who speak 10 languages and deceive in all of them equally? We, the Turks, do not know lies or deception. Be aware that I will find an opportunity to avenge your emperor, who, assuring me of his friendship, protects the Avars, our refugee slaves.
They carried out raids and invasions. For example, they invaded the Crimea, which at that time was under jurisdiction of the Byzantine Empire, the Eastern Roman Empire. There were also quite complicated relationships there. By the year 630, after falling the power of one of the strongest Turkic Khagan, Khagan, in the Eastern Turkic Empire, Tang troops entered there. That is, the Turks themselves recognized 50-year dependence on the Tang Empire. This was reflected in Argun inscriptions.
Don't knock a stone on a stone in vain. It makes wolf's teeth itch. Kazakh saying. From 576 to 583, the Turks waged a war with Byzantium and the Avars. The war was on the Black Sea coast, in the Crimea and the Caucasus. The Turks occupied the northeastern shores of the Black Sea and broke into the Crimea, but they were defeated and retreated, leaving the Crimea. As for Eastern affairs, the Khaganate concluded a peace treaty with Beijing Empire, which annually paid 100,000 pieces of silk fabrics, and for that, Turks helped it to make campaigns deep into Beiji territory.
At that time, the steppe itself wasn't without control. It is believed that in the weakened Turkic Empire, in the east, Si-Yanto state, Si-Yanto Khaganate arose. This is a two-part word which included the name of tribes and a good tribe, Yanto. This state existed, according to Zuev and Chinese sources, only for 22 years. But it played an important role in the history and foreign policy in the East.
A united 100 can win a discreet 1,000. Kazakh proverb. So the Turks' westward movement was not just conquest, but great migration of Turkic peoples and their settling in vast territories. Under energetic command of Istemi Khagan and his outstanding son Karachurin Turk in the west, the Turks achieved a great success, and in the first turn, diplomatic success. Istemi Khan took Iranian Sassanid language, in that way renewing the union of nomads with settled tribes. The union was unnatural and very dangerous, like the one that the Romans concluded with the Germans, then with Attila, and like the one that China and Byzantium so often concluded with Bavarians later. He strengthened ties for fight against Hephthalites.
Иранский царь Хосров I, царь царей.
Khosrow I, the king of kings, the greatest of Sassanid dynasty, married Turkic princess who bore him a son, Homizad IV, called at the coronation Turkzadeh, Turk's son. It was a fact of exceptional importance, if not for that time, but for the future. He called up to his army Turkic mercenaries, certainly of Christian religion, but anyway the Turks. His policy would be continued by Islamic Iran, then Byzantium, Abbasid Arab Caliphate, and Egypt. Later, these countries would be ruled by the Turks, that is, they would lose their independence and identity. Ruled by Khosrow I, Iran was so powerful that the Turks didn't go for a decisive aggression.
Иран был настолько силен, что тюрки не решались на решительные действия.
The Turks' diplomatic ties in the West, thanks to which we have valuable sources, Byzantine notes about Western Turks, made possible a protectorate that Istami and Karachurin established over inhabitants of Southeast Europe plains. First it was talked about in 569, then in 576. All of the above indicates the scope of Turkic diplomacy. The ties were fueled by ambitions of the Turks and the Byzantines. The latter, for a long period since the Roman era, waged an endless war against the Iranians. This fight exhausted both sides and made them defenseless by the time when the Arabs came out of their deserts. The new situation caused by appearance of the Turks far in the west made them potential allies.
Тюрки вышли в Тахаристан, это юг Афганистана современного, и таким образом вышли и к Гиндукушу.
The Turks came to Taharistan, it is south of present-day Afghanistan, and thus reached the Hindu Kush. All the next relations of the Turks were connected with Byzantium. Byzantine embassy quite intensively pursued issues of how to deliver the silk from China by passing Iran. And Iran turned out to be on one hand out of work, and on the other hand, Shah Khosrow Anushirvan tried to break these relations, not to allow the Turks to press Iran. He wanted to be reckoned with. Therefore, war began between Iran and the Turkic Khaganate. This war was even described in the epic Shahnameh, written by Ferdowsi many years after that. It is believed that one of the greatest achievements of the Turks in this war was access to the North Caucasus and the Kerch Strait.
К Северному Кавказу и Керченскому проливу.
Woman consolidates the unity of the family. Batur consolidates the unity of the people. Kazakh proverb. Let's refer again of Karachurin, who, correctly assessing the political reality, refused friendship with Iran and addressed to the Byzantines. He attacked Iran in 584, then in 588 and 590, and finally occupied Taharistan. That didn't prevent him, as soon as he had a chance, to intervene in internal Byzantine feuds. Just then, when Byzantine envoy Valentine was at his court, he sent troops in aid of the Turks, who lived in the present Ukraine, in their struggle against Crimean conspirators. It seemed that nothing could keep the Turks in their aggressive expansion. They extended their power in Mongolia, Turkestan, part of Chinese Turkestan, the western shore of the Caspian Sea, north and east of Afghanistan. They almost reached the Indus and came to the border of India. So, for the period from 546 to 582, the Turks conquered Jujuans, Khidans, Kyrgyzs, and defeated Hethalites. In 556, their successful incursion to Tuyuhun made this state to reckon with the Turks. In 558, the Turks conquered the Ogors. In the 60s, wars started in China, as a result of which both northern empires, Qi and Zhou, became Turkic tributaries. In 570, the campaign against Iran stabilized the border in Seyhun River, and in 576, the Turks took Bosphorus from Byzantium, and in 582, they invaded Lazica. This was the apogee of their power, and it should be once again noted that during this period within the Turkic Empire there were no strifes. But as soon as they occurred, almost immediately, the great Turkic Khaganate was split into Eastern and Western, and then into many different countries. But we have already learnt about it.